Okay, good afternoon and welcome to this first webinar in the 2015 CLEAR webinar series. The topic of this webinar is the Natural Resources Conservation Academy, which is a great program at UConn that you will hear about today. Also want to let you know about two other webinars we have upcoming. Next month we have an update on the emerald ash borer and how it is sort of insinuating itself into Connecticut. And then in April, we have a webinar on the shellfish mapper tool. So you can register for either of those webinars at our website, clear.uconn.edu. And if you have suggestions for topics that you would like to see in a webinar, you can just email us at clear@uconn.edu. Familiar with CLEAR? CLEAR stands for the Center for Land Use Education and Research. It is a center at UConn that has a lot of different outreach programs and research programs that aim to provide information, education, and assistance to communities, basically, primarily local land use decision makers. And the work we do focuses on three general topic areas: land use and climate resilience, water issues with sort of a focus on stormwater, and geospatial technology. So enough sort of opening remarks. I want to welcome our two speakers today. We have John Vollen, who is the department head of the Department of Natural Resources and the Environment in our college here at UConn, and Laura Cisneros, who is the coordinator of the Natural Resources Conservation Academy. And they're going to lead us through what the Academy is, what it does, and hopefully get you all excited to be a part of it. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to John.
All right, Dave, thanks much. I really appreciate being here today, and we're both Laura and I are very excited to be able to share the Natural Resource Conservation Academy with you. We also want to thank CLEAR for hosting this event today, and like Dave said, just please feel free at any time if you have some questions, just bring them to our attention, and we'll see what we can do to help answer. So, just to give you a little background, we're going to go through the program of the Natural Resource Conservation Academy, but to give you a little bit of background, this idea first started back in 2010, and we got very generous donation from a private foundation, and they've continued to support us since the beginning. And we like I said, in the late fall of 2010, we came up with the idea, and it took us about a year and a half of really developing it, because I think you'll see, there's many unique aspects to the Natural Resource Conservation Academy, which we're going to call it the NRCA, so it'll be a little bit quicker. Not quite such a mouthful. So we entered our first class in 2012, and one of the unique aspects that you'll see is the students come to UConn for a week in the summer, very intensive field experience. And the pictures that you see right now in front of you, in fact, reflect some of those experiences during several of those different summers. So we've had 3 classes so far, 2012 through 2014, but that's not where it ends. And so let's move on just real quickly here. And here's Laura. Dr. Laura Cisneros joined the NRCA last year as the program coordinator. We're really excited to have her here. She's also part of faculty now in the Department of Natural Resources and the Environment, as well as an extension educator. And so, like we were saying, what is the NRCA? So in a very kind of broad, simple definition, we call it an environmental education program for high school students. But really, as you'll see in this video coming up in a little bit, it's really quite a bit more than that. And as I was mentioning a few minutes ago, what makes it unique is not only the field experience. There's lots of programs out there that have this field experience, and then that's what the students do, and that's wonderful and it's great. But we want to take it a few steps beyond that. So one aspect to ours is it's rooted in environmental conservation, and the whole foundation of our field experience is with geospatial technology. And so that's, as you'll see in a minute, that's how students that's how they get introduced at the beginning of the field experience, and it permeates throughout the entire field experience. And then depending on what they do beyond that, some students will continue to use this geospatial technology. The second part that really makes it unique is that the students then After spending a very intense week with us in the field, we will then connect them with a community partner, and they'll go back to their individual community, and for the next 7 months, they'll conduct a conservation-related project within their own community. And then at the end of that, so if students have done the field experience, they've done their conservation community project, they then come back to the University of Connecticut in March the following year into an annual conference that we hold called the Connecticut Conference on Natural Resources. This conference brings around 250 to 300 professionals, scientists, educators interested in natural resources, conservation, the environment, at one gathering every year. And the students themselves get to have their own poster presentation. They each have done their own, Laura will give you some examples later on. And each student that's now done the field experience, the community conservation project, they then graduate as Connecticut Conservation Ambassadors. So these are some of the aspects that we think make the Natural Resource Conservation Academy unique and actually very exciting. So here we're going to do a quick video that will give you a little bit of deeper introduction on this.
He just brought up a question to me. He said, if you had $20,000 to $50,000 a year for up to 10 years, what would you do with it? The whole idea, honestly, at its core, is to reconnect, in some cases connect, high school students to nature.
You know, the idea that these kids are going to get really excited about science from learning it in the classroom doesn't work.
I saw children in 5th, 6th grade going to nature programs like Nature's Classroom or something like that, and they were hooked. When they get to high school, I don't know if they don't think the job opportunities are there, or they can follow this type of passion, or they just don't know enough about the natural resources and the environmental sciences. By the time they get to high school, somehow we've lost them.
We think that if we can get them out in the field and get them in that environment, and then let's learn about it. But let's let them explore it at the same time.
And they come here and they learn about water resources, they learn about forestry, fisheries, wildlife, geospatial technology, mapping. They learn all this in a week. These are tools in a way. We're introducing them to tools so that they can then take this experience and they can go back into their home community. Just seeing the excitement on all the kids' faces. But not just the kids, but the graduate students, the undergraduates, the faculty, the staff. Everyone is passionate about this.
It reminds me of myself and how interested I used to be and how I just used to eat up any information regarding natural resources. And going through 5 years of school now has kind of made me forget about how eager I used to be to learn about all this stuff.
You feel good when the student comes to you and has a true, honest question, or maybe even stumps you. You have to go look something up. And these kids, they're free with that 24/7. They've got questions to ask. They've got things they want answered.
I think I want students that are in this program to leave with a greater understanding of conservation and why it's important, to our not only our daily lives but to our future and our children's future.
I think it makes a lot of sense to take this program and try to integrate that land use decision-making component in the local communities into the science curriculum. If you look at the demographics of people who are, volunteers on these commissions across Connecticut, very few are under 50. It's a big problem.
So it made me excited to see the passion come out of them at such a young age when they're in high school. In high school I wasn't even planning on coming to college. So for them to have already, some of them freshmen going into their sophomore year, to be able to see that they've already had a grasp of what they wanted to do and they were pursuing it.
I really get to see the transformation that happens among these students. These students come from a huge spectrum. Some that spend a lot of time outdoors. Others that, quite honestly, probably haven't spent very much time at all in the natural world or playing outdoors. And every one of those students, finds that and sees that. And you actually see that glow that happens during that week. And it can't help but be infectious.
Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an introduction to the NRCA, and you can see the enthusiasm, as I mentioned in that video, that kind of permeates the whole group. So what I thought I would do is we really want to focus more on the community projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go through the field experience fairly quickly. But again, if you have any questions, just please feel free to jump out. So what we do, as I mentioned, students arrive at UConn in July. They arrive on a Sunday afternoon, and they go the entire week, and they get picked up on Saturday. And the days are very intense, and they start out right away. The students live at the dorms, and what we do is the University of Connecticut has what they call the 4 Arrows Challenge course, and it's an amazing program that's been set up by the university. And we utilize that program to get our students introduced to each other and to get them to get introduced with the faculty and the staff, because we actually don't allow the students to have more than 2 or 3 from the same high school, because we can only accommodate about 22 to 24 every summer. We went through the challenge course where everyone kind of learns quickly people's names. They do team building. As I mentioned, the first day and the whole week is based with the Geospatial Technology Foundation. And we start right from the basics. The students learn how to do mapping, compass work, etc. And then we move on to the more technical aspects, more modern, let's face it, GPS, GIS, remote sensing. And one last thing, I'll use the word unique for the last time today, but one other thing that's very unique about this is the amount of faculty and staff and graduate students and undergraduate students, these high school students, get to meet during the week. Right here, as you can see, there's Emily Wilson and Carrie Chadwick in the upper left and right, pictures here from faculty in Extension in Clear. And they help right away set the foundation for the geospatial technology. The next day is based on water and green infrastructure. Here's faculty from Natural Resources and the Environment, Dr. Ashley Helton, Jason Vokoun, doing, right now they're doing water quality work. We have Ched Arnold and Mike Dietz from Clear and Extension, and what they're working on is looking at the different types of green infrastructure that UConn utilizes to help improve water quality. So you can see the pervious pavement that Ched is demonstrating on the lower left-hand side there of your screen, some of the green roofs on the right-hand side of the screen. So students do tours of these, but one of the things that I think got mentioned when the microphone was off is on Sunday night we break these groups into teams, and so we have 4 individual teams that work together throughout the week, and so the students by the end of the week will actually have their own project that they'll present on that Saturday morning. So this is the afternoon on the second day of looking at where the students go out into the Fenton River and they do different water quality type measurements. The third day, this is on Wednesday, is devoted, the afternoon and evening is devoted to forestry. Here you have Tom Worthley and me. Tom has just cut down a tree and created a forest gap, and we're talking about the different aspects of what that means for the forest. Here's later in the forestry day, we also show that, when we take these trees down, that they have great use here in small-scale forestry. And as many of you have probably heard, if you were tuned in last fall, or last December, I believe it was, Mark Rudnicki gave a presentation on Stormwise, which was the effect of wind on trees. And you can see here the students are actually pulling on a tree that's hooked up electronically, and they're actually testing the displacement that would occur due to wind. So as you can see, I'm going to move through quickly these so we can get to the community projects. On Wednesday morning and on Thursday morning, one group of students will do fisheries and the other students will do wildlife, and then they switch on the next day. And you can see here in this picture, they're looking at amphibians, reptiles, they're using telemetry to look for wildlife. And of course, this is a big hit with the students. I think they like forestry better, but very often the Fish and Wildlife folks think this is the tops. But like I was saying, they all end up doing, so we have these 4 teams, and they all do a project that week. And this is really to get them kind of started thinking about what they want to do in their own community. And so as you can see here, this is one of the field experience projects, and the students, each student will do a presentation when their parents come to pick them up on Saturday morning. And in these presentations, they're a group effort, but every one of those students gets up during the presentation and has a piece of that presentation. All right, so I'm going to show you just this one as an example. So this is an invasive species map tour of the UConn forest that one of the teams did. And so you can see on the left-hand side there, the yellow lines that you see going through the UConn forest. This is part of the Fenton tract of the UConn forest. And at each one of those points, students would stop.
Sorry, John, let me stop you.
Yep. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to switch to the community project now with Laura. And Laura's going to show another really great aspect of the program that you may want to get involved with.
Thank you, John. Okay, so the second part of the NRCA is the community project. And when I go and to school visits and speak to students and teachers about the NRCA, they primarily think of this program as a summer program. And while the field experience is a very important part of our program, we believe that the community projects are one of the most essential parts of the program, because this is where they're actually applying the skills and knowledge that they gain from the field experience to a local community conservation project. So, and this is an independent project. So I stress local community because we would like these projects are conducted in their own town and benefits their local community in some way. Also, the projects have some sort of broad conservation focus. These community projects are done under the guidance of a community partner. And what is a community partner? A community partner can be a variety of people, and we don't like to restrict who can be our community partner or who can be a community partner. But just to give you an idea, this may be a local conservation leader, an environmental professional, a decision maker in the town, or a local planner. It may be someone who works for a land trust or conservation or wetland commission or a nonprofit conservation organization, etc. Really, this is someone who has an expertise in some sort of topic that the student is interested in pursuing a project. And so I'll talk more about the community projects and community partners that we've worked with in the past. So, but before we go on, I wanted to briefly talk about the scheduling of the community project component of the NRCA. And so the students will apply by March, and acceptance is made in April. And in the past, students have normally waited to connect with a community partner and develop a project after the field experience. But this year, we'd like to try something new. After the acceptance, I will be discussing with the students their interest in May, so that by June, we'll determine a community partner that complements their interests, and that community partner can work with that student to further refine their project. And I'm always there to help out with that part as well. So that by the time after the field experience in July, or even maybe a little bit before that, the student can hit the ground running. They can start carrying out their project right away. And they have until February to do this. So really, the scheduling of the project is going to be dependent on the project itself. Some projects may need to be, the bulk of the work may need to be carried out in the summer or early fall months, whereas others may need to wait till later fall months, early winter months. It's really dependent on that project. But ideally, we would like the students to work out a lot of the project in the early summer months, early fall months before school hits, so that they're not so overwhelmed with carrying out a project as well as attending to their school responsibilities. And so they have till February to carry this project out because, as John mentioned, they'll be presenting their projects in a poster format at the Connecticut Conference on Natural Resources in March. And this is a great venue for them to present their work, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on in the webinar. All right, so here's an image of an interactive map of projects that have been done by our NRCA students at our website, and you can find this at our website at nrca.uconn.edu. And if you go to the Community Projects tab, you'll see this interactive map. So what it's showing is each star indicates one of our students in the past 3 cycles that we've had the NRCA. And so overall we've had, I did not want to do that quite yet. So we've worked with 63 students from 38 Connecticut towns, and as you can see, they're distributed across Connecticut. They've come from 29 high schools, and over these past 3 cycles, these students have, there have been 53 community projects that have either been completed or are currently underway. And we've had the pleasure of working with 34 community partners, and we really look forward to expanding this number, working with more community partners and building more long-term relationships with our community partners. So now let's take a look at the interactive map to see what kind of information you can gain from this. So here's the interactive map, and when you go to one of these stars, you will learn about the student, what NRCA class they're in, their high school, as well as their project and their community partner. So when you click, let's go and take a look at this project. So when you click on their project, you can see example or their poster that they presented at the Connecticut Conference on Natural Resources. And so this student was from part of our first year's group of students, and he worked with the Goodwin Conservation Center. And his project focused on education of elementary school children about species that we typically consider as pests, and tried to educate them on their role in the ecosystem and the benefits that they bring to the ecosystem. And so he had 2 lessons that he did. He taught about bees and wasps, and then small mammals such as rodents, shrews, and moles. And so here you can see him talking to some of the students and teaching them about bees with one of their model beehives. And what I thought was great for the small mammals, so here's a little mole. He had a lesson on moles, and he taught the students about the behavior of moles and why that behavior results in them becoming as a pest. So he set up a little maze for the students to get through this rope maze, and the students had to get to their gummy worms. And as they were going through that rope maze, they were disrupting the environment around them. So they learned why moles were cause those what we consider destructive tunnels in our backyards. But then he explained the importance of moles. So this was a nice, simple project, nice project that he did. And let's share one more. Okay. And so let's take a look at one more, someone from our last year's group. So Elizabeth did a project with her community partner, happened to be at Sacred Heart University, but we're not just looking for university community partners, we're looking for a variety of community partners. But this is a great project because it has multiple components to it. She had an outreach component to it where she went into 4th grade classrooms and taught them about the horseshoe crabs and conservation of horseshoe crabs in the Long Island Sound. So here she is instructing them. And in addition to teaching them in the classroom, she joined them on a field trip out to the Long Island Sound where they got to see the tagged horseshoe crabs and learned about other intertidal species. Another part of her project was she assessed post-embryonic growth of horseshoe crabs. And here's a little guy right here. And she looked at the effects of different proportions of protein in their diet and how that affected post-embryonic growth. So she had a little bit of a scientific component to her project there. And then the third component was she used data that was collected on migration patterns or travel patterns of horseshoe crabs along the coast of Connecticut. So I like to show these two projects because some projects can have a single component, and that's great. And then other students like to add multiple components. So there's a variety of projects that are done by our students. Okay, so now just tell you a little bit about our current students. So on the interactive map, you'll notice there's some yellow stars, and that's our current students right now. And if you go to those stars, there's not information on their projects because they're currently underway, and those will be updated after the conference in March. So one of the projects we have going on right now is being conducted by our student Giselle, and she's at Central High School in Bridgeport. And she participated in a rain garden workshop and installed a rain garden outside her high school right here. That's Central. And this was a great project because she got the community involved as well as students that go to Central High School. And so these students and these local community members learned about the importance of green infrastructure and in particular rain gardens in managing stormwater pollutants, and got to participate in the installation, learning how to actually install a rain garden. And this was done in collaboration with CLEAR, UConn, and Michael Singer Studio. And funds for this project were obtained through the Cerdna Foundation. So I like to bring up this project because one of the things we love to do is partner with our community partners by looking for funding sources to help support these projects. So if that's something you're interested in, we would love to talk to you more about various grants that are available out there and how we can collaborate to try to find some funding sources for these projects. Okay, so another project that's currently going on is being conducted by Anna Music, and she is working with the Stuart B. McKinney National Wildlife National Wildlife Refuge on the coast of Connecticut, and they cleared some plots to promote early successional growth and shrubland habitat. So she's currently monitoring wildlife in these plots to see what type of species are visiting. And in addition to that, she's also creating an exhibit at the local library on early successional and shrubland habitats, and will also be giving a presentation. So this is another great project, and many of our students in the past and also some other students right now are using camera traps to monitor wildlife and address a variety of questions. So this is great technology to use for these projects. And then the last project that I'll discuss for right now, and then we'll come back to some more later, is one by our student Samina Shaw in South Windsor, and she is putting on a couple of workshops on invasive plants. So she's teaching the local community about what are invasive plants, how they got here, why they're bad for the ecosystem, and how to identify these plants in your backyard. And she's working with the South Windsor Food Alliance to put on one of these workshops. And in addition to that, she's making a brochure that summarizes the materials in her workshop, and she's working with the Boy Scouts to distribute those brochures. Okay, so you've now gotten a chance to see some of the community projects that our students have worked on or are currently working on, and some of their community partners. But as I mentioned before, we've worked with 34 community partners from a variety of organizations. A number have been from conservation and wetland commissions. We've worked with a variety of land trusts, as you can see, government agencies, and then a couple of universities. And we really want to expand the number of community partners that we're working with. With a number of these community partners we've worked with for multiple years. So the next thing I'd like to do is talk about those partnerships. And an example of one of our multi-year community partners is the Kent Land Trust. And we've worked with Lori Doss from the Kent Land Trust and Marvel Wood. She's had 6 students over these past 3 years. So the overarching theme for her projects with her students are just introducing the local community to the great biodiversity of species found in the Kent area. And so I won't go through all 6 projects, but I'll just run through projects that have been done each year, examples of projects that have been done each year. So during the first year, our NRCA student, Bryn, her project was focused on interpretive trail development, specifically for children. So she created these trail markers and a little map for children to go find these trail markers, and then there were signs and posts accompanying those trail markers that taught the child about that species and where to look for that species in their habitat. The next year, there were 2 students that worked together creating a video that introduced novice birders to, or they helped novice birders to better ID birds. And the motivation for this was that if you're interested in learning about the birds in your backyard, but you go to the bookstore and you're probably going to buy one of those big chunky New England books and it's very difficult to navigate through, and there's tons of birds and it's difficult to learn all their calls, songs, and distinguishing characteristics. So they broke it down and made it easy and fun through this video. And then currently we have a student, Josh, who is creating a field guide of birds, amphibians, reptiles, and invertebrates that are found in the Kent area. And he's creating this by taking these beautiful photos, which you'll see in the video to come shortly. And so the same motivation, someone who wants to get into learning about the species in their backyard, but it's very difficult with the materials available to you. So he's breaking it down and making it easy for people to get out there and learning what's in their backyard. So I will stop talking and let you listen to his community partner, Lori Doss, and himself talk about their project.
What's that bird? Sparrow.
I think a white-throated. Another unbanded gray cat bird.
Right over here. So why don't you step a little bit in the sun here, and then you can just hold it now. The most important thing is the bird. Our goal sort of has been to try and connect the local community with the incredible biodiversity that surrounds them here in Kent, because a lot of them aren't aware of what's here. And so through a variety of student projects, that's what we've attempted to do.
So the whole thing is going to be a field guide to the animals that are found here in Kent, Connecticut, from the birds to the insects to the reptiles and amphibians. Really the only thing we're not doing is mammals. And we're going to be doing all this in the Meet Your Neighbors style photography, and it's going to be long, but it's going to be worth it. The kids have a greater sense of accomplishment that they were able to do it, and there are going to be things like this in life that help them. But the key is just trying to break it down and trying to set a schedule. Well, you should do is that think of something that's going to really help your community in a way. Like with my field guide, the whole goal is to educate people who want to know or just don't know anything about nature and are quite curious. And what you probably should do is just figure out fun, good ways that people would be interested in and might want to either look at the product or might want to be involved in the activities. Just something that's really going to pull the community better together.
And I think just realizing as a teacher, you know, we're getting older, and there's a great concern about who is going to be the next set of conservationists, who are going to, you know, who's going to help protect land, who's going to manage land. It's not just enough to buy the land, you have to manage the land for different species. Who's going to do this? Because fewer kids are going outside, you know. they're on their computers, they're on their phones, and so just the satisfaction of knowing that I've at least got kids who are going outside on a regular basis, and that there's some kids here that are going to grow up and they're going to carry this torch on. For me, it's just passing the torch.
So another example of a multi-year community partner is one with Tracy Brown at Trout Unlimited. And so all the projects that she's worked with 5 students, and all of their projects have stemmed off of a larger project that she's been working on, which is the restoration of the Salmon Kill River in northwestern Connecticut. The first year student looked at threats to the headwaters to the Salmon Kill River, and also assessed the health of the headwaters. And so you can see in this map, he had a variety of data collection points in the headwaters to the Salmon Kill River and identified these threats and used macroinvertebrate data to assess the health of these headwaters. The second year student looked at culverts along the Salmon Kill River and identified areas of restoration need to improve fish passage. And then currently we have 2 students that are doing separate projects, but one is assessing diversity of fish, and the other one is looking at community composition of macroinvertebrates to help guide restoration efforts along the Salmon Kill River. Okay, so now to discuss another relationship that we have with some of our community partners, and that is the scholarships that are provided by some of our community partners. So one of the examples of this relationship is with the Salisbury Land Trust. And this past year, they started providing a scholarship to help students in the local area participate in the NRCA. And so this year's awardees were Eve and Mari Cullerton and their sisters, so they shared this scholarship. And this scholarship, along with the scholarship, the students have the chance to contribute to the Salisbury Association newsletter, and so they just recently provided their article to that, talking about their experiences at the field experience and during the community project and the benefits that that's bringing to their local community. We have the same relationship with the Essex Land Trust, and they were actually the first ones to develop this type of scholarship relationship with us. And similarly, they provide $1,000 to a local participant to participate in the NRCA. And this year's awardee went to Megan Ryan, and she was awarded the David Hyde scholarship. And David Hyde was a longtime board member of the Essex Land Trust that played many key parts in land acquisition. And so she's awarded the scholarship, and any student that's awarded the scholarship has the opportunity to work on a variety of projects with the Essex Land Trust. And this year, Megan is working on, her project is focusing on osprey. And I have a video for this, but I'm not sure if it's going to work, so we can give it a try.
That's when the idea of this NRCA scholarship came along, which we decided to establish as an annual event. We have partnered with the Valley Regional High School Science Department, and the idea is that they will publicize each year to high school students the opportunity which the NRCA program offers, and we will then make this award in time for the student to participate during the summer, because the individuals that get awarded here are obviously interested in the subject, and if this helps them to become more interested or more committed or follow a certain path which is beneficial to the environment and to the area, then we think that's a good thing for us to do.
So like all summer we were waiting to see when they were going to fly out of the nest, and like every time they'd like go over to the edge and you'd be like, oh, this is going to be it, because like we'd have the binoculars. So that was really cool this summer, because eventually they did finally like fly out, and they'd like fly just to a little perch and then come back. But that was cool this summer to see them sort of like growing up.
So Megan came along as someone who was interested in doing a project, and this coincided with our interest in putting together a book or booklet which will have a history of the island, the history of the Land Trust association with the island, but then feature the life of, or the life cycle of an osprey pair on this particular property. When we decided to do this project with Megan, we decided that it was be great if she could help us put the story together of the osprey in the Connecticut River.
I'm going through it and editing it so that it's shorter and like in full sentences so that people will be able to read it in the books. And so this is stuff that I've already edited, and then like down here I have all this stuff that I'm working on still. It is a huge project, but you do have a lot of time to do it, and if you stay on track with like the deadlines and planning your project and then doing it and then starting on your poster, it doesn't seem like you're doing a ton of work like in the 2-week segment that you have.
I would say first thing is look at the prototype poster and understand what is the type of content that's required and the way it needs to be presented, because I think that can really help you in terms of guiding the student into what areas they should be focusing on and the detail to which they should be going.
I think before I hadn't really been considering like an environmental field as a possibility for what I might want to study, just because like my school doesn't really have natural resource programs or anything like that. But after, it was like definitely something I'm considering, and now what I'm looking at is environmental engineering, because I think that'd be cool, because like I really like math, so it'd be a cool way to sort of like combine the two things.
So projects culminate in March at the Connecticut Conference on Natural Resources, and as we mentioned, this is a great venue for the students because they have the chance to interact with a variety of scientists, land managers, a variety of people that work with natural resources, to hear their ideas and also to teach those professionals about what they've been doing throughout Connecticut. And so they present a poster on their work. This is an example of one, and you can see many more examples on our interactive map. And then at the end of the conference, they're all recognized as Connecticut Conservation Ambassadors, and this is our first year's group. Is there anything to add?
Yeah, and so one thing that's a surprise to the students at the end of the field experience is we let them know as we're sending them off to do their individual project that we will judge those community projects at the end, and the top 3 will actually be awarded 4-year scholarships. The first place is $8,000 over the 4 years, so $2,000 a year. The second place is $4,000, and third place is $2,000 scholarship. Should they get into the University of Connecticut and decide to major in natural resources, and we'll provide them those scholarships. And the young woman right there in the salmon shirt actually won the top place, and she is now in her just entered her junior year as a student in natural resources at UConn. So that was kind of an exciting benefit.
So hopefully you've gotten to see the amazing work that our students are doing currently and how this benefits the local communities throughout Connecticut. If you're interested in becoming involved, I encourage you all to contact me. Here's my email and office number, and there's no commitment to starting a conversation. If you just feel free to contact me and bounce around ideas for community projects, or I can help develop and brainstorm ideas for good community projects that may benefit your organization, the local community, and the students. I also encourage you to visit our website. It's chock full of videos videos that work. And I'll be posting our other videos that were included in this presentation. And then I also encourage you to visit our Facebook page. I'm constantly updating it on what our students are currently doing right now. So,
and now let's see what we have for questions here. If there's any questions besides the sound isn't working. If you do have questions for
high
John
school
or
students?
Laura.
What year? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, this program is.
The question. Say the question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Yeah. The question is, what year are the high school students? What does the question say? Oh, it's right there.
There you go.
Oh, what year of high school students do students typically apply? Sorry about that. This program is available for students that are in 9th to junior year. They can apply in their 9th to 11th year. And the reason for that is because they need to be in high school one more year to complete the community project. So unfortunately, we can't take seniors.
Right. We also limit to 17 or younger.
Oh.
For legal reasons. Yeah.
Cost.
Yep. So what is the cost to students? To apply, the application fee and registration fee, the tuition fee, is $895. However, we strive to make this program available to a wide variety of students coming from a variety of backgrounds. So we offer financial aid, and with the application form, there's a financial aid form. And for those students that need it, over half of our students have received some form of aid. Also, any student that's on the free or reduced lunch program can submit their application to that program in place of our financial aid form, and do automatically receive some sort of form of financial aid.
Right, and that $895 includes the full week at UConn, which is the dormitory, the lodging, of course, the food, everything. But then it also involves follow-up for the next 7 months with Laura and other members of the team.
Okay, the next question is, does UConn fund special community projects if no local grant or funding is found?
We typically don't provide funding, but we provide support. And so, for instance, some students, they don't have their own GPS units or whatever. We'll lend them GPS units, or other types of equipment over the course of that 7 months. Again, we will go out. We will try to help the students as much as possible. We really rely on the community partner, but it's not like we just hand them off. It's really a partnership between us, the students, and the community partner. And so I think there's lots of support in that way. I can't think of when we give direct funding to a project, do we? No.
And then another question, how do potential community partners contact you? So you saw my email. You can contact me through my email, laura.cisneros@uconn.edu. Also, the NRCA has an email address, so that's nrca at uconn.edu. I don't write to that one that often. But you can find that all on our website at nrca.uconn.edu. All the contact information is there. And feel free to also give us a ring if you prefer calling as opposed to email.
Oh, we do have one more question here.
I could see our environmental club tackling these projects. Can we send a rep over the summer and then have the whole group work on a project, or does it need to be an individual project? We like these. We strive for these projects to be individual projects, but I think if a whole group was tackling a project, the level at which that project, the scale of that project should be a grander than what an individual would tackle.
I think this is something we'd want to enter a conversation with to explore more what you're thinking with this. Yeah, one thing is as I mentioned earlier, although I'm not sure I was still speaking and the microphone was working, but as I was mentioning earlier, we try to, when we pick the students, we rarely have more than 2 from the same high school at any one time. The idea is the students are really coming from across the state, and for the most part, they don't know each other. And so, and that's kind of the whole part of getting out of the comfort zone and just the whole process that has seemed to really work with the program.
Okay, and I think that's all the questions that we have. I do want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for sticking with us through our many and almost humorous technical difficulties today. Very impressive that you were all able to stay on. And I also want to thank Laura and John, who put together a great presentation. And unfortunately, our technical difficulties didn't quite show it off as well, but I think it still came off and their message came through. And I want to thank both of them for putting the time to share this information with you. Any closing remarks from the two of you?
No, just thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, folks.